Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Russell and this is my YouTube channel, Raspberry Rock. Today we're just north of Bancroft, Ontario to install a off-grid solar power system. It's going to take place over the next 2 or 3 days. Hopefully we're going to catch it start to finish. I'm going to go through all the details with you, all the install with you. The only thing that's been done so far is these forms have been put in by the property owner. Other than that, nothing's been done. The cabling hasn't been done, the panels haven't been done, so well, let's just jump right in and we'll take a look at what we got here. The major components of this system are comprised of 16 Hanwha Q-Cells solar panels at 425 watts each, 2 Outback Flexmax 100 charge controllers, 1 Outback Radian 4048 inverter, 8 Rolls 460 amp hour AGM batteries, and a kinetic solar ground mount, plus lots of wire, nuts, bolts, combiner boxes, and stuff. How do you put all this stuff together, Russell? Well, it looks like this. The solar panels are divided into 2 rays, and each ray is divided into 2 strings, each string with 4 425 watt panels. Each of these strings then feeds into a combiner box, then runs through a long direct burial cable, in this case teck cable, eventually feeding into a Flexmax charge controller. The charge controllers communicate with each other and do some load shifting. They take the incoming power and modify it, constantly finding the best curve in terms of voltage and amperage to feed the batteries. The batteries feed the inverter, which provides up to 4,000 watts to the house loads at either 120 volts or 240 volts. The homeowner eventually plans to add a 240 volt generator which will connect to the inverter and in turn will charge the batteries. This all may sound complicated, but it's all about ensuring that along the way you don't exceed the voltages and amperages of the equipment you're working with, while choosing the equipment that's most effective and without breaking your bank. I thought I'd talk about these panels for a sec. These are Hanwha Q-Cells 425 watt panels, and there's some interesting things about these. These are a lot bigger than the panels, say, on my roof. They're about the same width, but my panels being like 5.5 feet tall, and I'm 6 feet tall, you can tell this is much taller. In fact, these are about 82 inches tall, 40 inches wide. There's double the number of cells in the same area though as well. Like these silicon wafers are about half the size as the regular type. I think there's like 144 on this panel. There's also a lot more copper, what are these called, bus bars on each wafer, and I guess that's less room for less distance for the electrons to travel to hit the copper, which I guess all this is going to translate into more efficiency turning sunlight into electricity. So this is pretty neat. This is going to be pretty interesting to see how these go up. Here's the back of the panel. Pretty standard stuff, except interestingly on the old style panels there would be 1 box on here and both cables would come out, and here there's 2 boxes that the cables are coming out of. These look like standard MC4 connectors on here. Alright, so tell us what you're working on there.
Okay, this is a 4,000 watt Radian hybrid inverter. So special thing with this is it can be grid tie, it can be off grid, it can do peak shaving, it can do load shifting, it can do a whole pile of things. So this inverter is good in case, like we're about 1.5 kilometers from the Hydro One lines. If they ever did bring the power down the road, you could actually hook this up and operate a grid tie. You wouldn't have to change anything. so it can operate in many different modes. Right now it's just going to be off-grid. So we have 200 amp charge controllers, one for each one of these arrays here. We have 2 separate charge controllers so that we can have different maximum power point tracking, so we can optimize the panels, exposure to the sun. So when the east ones are in the sun, the west ones are not, so we need to optimize for that. So that's why we got 2 separate ones. They all feed into the GSLC, which is basically the wiring box, and there's the inverter. So right now I'm just wiring in some 100 amp breakers. We had 80 amps in before because these are 100 amp charge controllers. So they shipped me the wrong ones, so that's why I'm doing it here in the field. I would have rather done this in the shop.
So why is it all on one piece of plywood?
To make it much easier to mount when we go to mount it. So rather than mounting 5 different things, we mount one different thing. Although the downside to that is it weighs a lot, as Russell can attest to. Russell was complaining about.
I wasn't complaining, I was just whining.
He was just commenting.
All right, explain the new shovel.
What? It's a new shovel, that's all. Sometimes shovels are new.
Okay, go. Do it.
Not in a grunt shovel, that's for sure.
Huh?
There you go. Looking good.
Oh, I hit something. Treasure. Yeah, depends which way to put a 90. I like it.
So that's day 1 in the books. All the panels are up, installed, all the mounting hardware is in place. Now it's a lot of wiring. Tomorrow we're going to get the battery bank in place, the charge controllers and the inverter on the bank where they're supposed to go. Finish all this wiring business here. There's a lot of little bits and pieces like wiring behind the panels, and you got to tidy it up with zip ties and stuff like that, make it all real neat. Ray's working on the combiner box right now. They're probably going to work a little while longer, but I'm going to head home because I got a longer drive than them. So anyway, day 1 done. We'll see you again in day 2. It's day 2 here at the off-grid solar power installation place. Looks like they're still working on wiring. I thought maybe they put in the battery. I was a little late getting here today, almost ran out of gas. I thought maybe they have the batteries in place, but they don't, which is good. And I don't think they've done anything up there, which is great, so we'll be able to film all that. Right now they're just working on cable management and stuff, so let's take a closer look. Remember that big piece of plywood with all the components on it, the charge controllers and the inverter? They were going to carry it down there. But I think he's decided to drive it down. It's freaking heavy. It's like, I don't know, 300 pounds or something. It's crazy. And I think we're waiting on a trench digger or an excavator to dig the hole for the line here. I should note also that this is teck cable, so it's direct burial cable. You don't need to put in a conduit. I believe it's number 4, and they're using aluminum. Aluminum is a lot cheaper than copper, but if you go aluminum, you have to go one size bigger. So I guess number 6 is what they would have used for copper. Anyway, so I'm not sure how they're going to bury it. I should also note that some of this is just temporary. The homeowner is building a new house soon, So a lot of what we're about to do is going to be changed in the next few months, 6 months. I'm not sure when he's actually building it, but that's fine. We can take care of that. So this is the spot they're actually looking for to put that big piece of plywood with the inverters and the inverter and charge controllers on it. Right over this window, in fact. We got some good strong framing right here, right up to the double top. They're thinking of putting right up to the double top plate to tie into that, and then hitting these framing bits. And that's a good spot, good temporary spot. And then I think, I don't know about the batteries. Either here along this wall or right here, right underneath the thing. But I don't know. We'll get Ray in here if he ever gets off the phone.
I only went up as far as here. Like I only went as far as the top plate.
So this was built for the batteries, to hold the batteries. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm guessing they.
I know. I was on the phone with Brandon.
Going from the top. Everybody's on the phone here. So this will be interesting to see how this works and how this sits.
Oh, okay.
How long to plug everything in?
We gotta put the batteries in. That's a bit of a chore. We gotta wire the batteries. That'll take about half hour to 40 minutes to put the batteries in and wire them. I gotta do a couple more things in here. And then we gotta wire in the PV coming in. Then we gotta work on an AC box. So it'll be a little while.
Despite the fact that everything's open there and all the wires are kind of hanging out, I like how what's the word I'm looking for? Damn it. I had a really good word ready for what I was about to say. It was,
well, everything's dead right now. That's the advantage. There's no power anywhere right now, so I can fool around in there. Once we get power in there, because the DC is hard to turn off. When these batteries go to these wires go to the batteries, and this is my only disconnect. But that means this is still live, and so.
Yeah, he's just rambling at this point.
Alright.
Clean! That's the word I was looking for.
Clean.
Where's your
Clean?
screen, Ray?
What's that?
Where's your solar?
Okay.
So one of the bodies we have to work with on installations like this, unlike my cabin where it's a hunt camp and they really don't care what you do there, this is a regular house. So whenever you're doing anything electrical wise with a regular house, you got to involve the ESA, the Electrical Safety Authority, and the code's changing all the time, and it also depends on what inspector you get and his or her interpretation of the code, oddly enough. One of the things they want these days is to cover the back side of your panels with chicken wire or something like that, so that people can't come in here and start fooling with the connectors. Although there's really nothing, they're mainly kids, right? If a kid comes along and starts fooling with stuff, can he get, you know, shocked? But it'd be really hard to do. You need a tool to take these apart. But at any rate, the homeowner wants to build a fence around this area because sometimes he puts cows in this field, so he wants to put a fence around it. And they're thinking, well, maybe the inspector will take that instead of chicken wire over the back, because chicken wire is just kind of dumb in my opinion. Anyway, you'll notice some nice cable management here. It's always good to have the cable tucked up and zip tied in so it's not flapping all over the place. Nice and hidden. Yeah, so I'm here just tightening up some loose ends, tightening up some nuts and bolts here and there while Ray does the electrical. Right now it's just a lot of like stripping wires and plugging them in, and so not much to see actually. So why do we have one set of panels facing this way and one set of panels facing that way? Well, I was going to get Ray to explain this, but I guess I can. He's pretty busy. So south is actually somewhere in between where these panels are facing. And in fact, I don't know for certain, but it looks like this set of panels is 45 degrees off south towards the east, and that set of panels is 45 degrees off south pointing to the west. And I guess the idea being that we have some panels facing to get the morning sun, right? So we get that power quickly in the morning when you kind of need it. You've kind of drained your batteries overnight, get a quick blast of sunshine in the morning first thing to power them back up. And then these set of panels catches the late afternoon or even evening sunshine as the sun's gone across the sky, because it's in the middle of the day when you don't really need all that power. Your batteries are probably full. You need that power later on, like when you're cooking dinner and stuff. Personally, I'd like to see the data on this. I think a lot of it's kind of up to your personal use, like when you use power inside your home. Is this really better than just having all the panels facing south? I don't know. As I said, I'd like to see the data. But it's an interesting idea, and the solar panels part of the system is way oversized. I mean, we've got 425 times 16, 425 watts times 16. Hold on, let me do some quick math. 6,800 watts. Yeah, so 6,800 watts is like more than 3 times the size of my system, and yet his battery bank is 460 amps times 8. Hold on. Let me do some math here. Yeah, I had to do a bit of math there. So he's got 8 batteries, 460 watts each, times 48 volts is what they're running at, gives us 22 kilowatt hours, which you can only use about half of, so 11 kilowatt hours. They shouldn't really be bringing those below 50%. So 11 kilowatt hours and a 6,800 watt solar power system. Yeah, it'll probably take like an hour or an hour and a half in the morning to bring those back up to full from 50%. Maybe not even. So anyway, where this system is really going to shine is in the shoulder months, or even in the winter time when we just don't get the daylight hours. We just don't get the sunshine that we have in the summertime. Then it'll be interesting to see how well a solar power system keeps up with his needs inside. Now he's got a whole family. He's a wife and 2 kids, so they're using a lot more electricity than I am. But yeah, time will tell.
Battery voltage here, 51. So that wiring is correct.
So after a lot of wiring later, this is the setup, and it's nice and clean, despite the fact that this is all going to move in a couple of months to their new house. It's nice and clean, and I think mostly because of Ray's system of putting everything on a piece of plywood, and the wiring's all there, and it's all nicely ducked in, and it looks great. What we've got here is the 2 charge controllers. Charge controller 1 for the west facing panels, charge controller 2 for the east facing panels. And one of the interesting things about this is that they figure out between them what's going to be master and what's going to be slave. And sometimes it needs all the power from both arrays, and sometimes it doesn't. Right now, I can tell because of the lights that it's for some reason taking power from the east facing panels and over the west facing panels, just from the lights. And yeah, if we turned off the breaker for the charge controller number 2, number 1 would automatically take over, because it's still getting sunlight. There's still sunlight on both sets of panels, which is pretty neat. Now over here, we do have all the wiring for the well, pretty much all the wiring for everything. figured out how to open this. How do you open this, right? Like that. So actually, all the wiring is behind here. We've got a plate over in front of it, and here's all our breakers. So we can turn off the power from the solar panels to the charge controllers, between the charge controllers and the battery, between the batteries and the inverters.
All right.
We can do all that from here pretty easily. And then there's the main shut-off. We can turn it off, all off and on at our leisure. Most of the time you're not going to be in here doing anything anyway. I did it that time. So over here, let's get a little closer. So this is kind of the fun part of all of this. This is the display where you can see where everything's happening. There's only really, for the homeowner, there's only really a couple of screens that you're going to watch, you know, day to day. You know, like this screen. This is the main screen where it's showing how much power is coming in from the solar panels. It's showing what the voltage of the batteries is. It's showing what the load is. So if anything that's turned on in the house, like lights or appliances or whatever, it shows that load. It also shows the state of charge for the batteries. So between the state of charge and the voltage of the batteries, you can pretty much tell how charged are your batteries, and at what point should you consider turning on the generator. In fact, there was a breaker in the box here for a generator, but the homeowner doesn't have a 240 volt generator. He's only got a 120, so it's not going to work for the system. We've also set up a favorite here, just for a little bit more information on you know, how many amps are coming and going between the panels and the charge controller, between the charge controller and the batteries, between the batteries and the inverter, between the inverter and the house. But really, all the information that the homeowner needs is pretty much on the screen. There's lots of other screens for settings, and you know, because the charge controllers need to know what voltages to charge in, absorption, bulk mode, at floating mode, and stuff like that. But generally, you're not going to need all this stuff, all those settings anymore. One of the neat things is you can actually plug this into the internet through wirelessly to a box in the house that's plugged into the internet, and then you get all sorts of information. You can get graphs on your usage, and graphs on solar production, graphs on just about everything, so you can tell from day to day, here's how much power I used, you know, here's how much solar I generated, and etc., etc. And you can map that over time. Between the seasons, between summer and winter and fall and spring and all that. And that's that for the system inside. We're pretty much done here and cleaned up, so we're going to head outside now. Chillaxing.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on, let me make sure the audio.
You gonna get in here too?
Huh?
You gonna sit in here too?
Can we like?
One bum cheek apiece now. Maybe not.
So, no, it's not need to be in there.
All right.
So I'm back at Raspberry Rock, and it's about 3 weeks later. After we stopped filming there, I spent about an hour with the homeowner, kind of explaining him the ins and outs of off-grid solar power. It turns out I have more experience than most people living with an off-grid solar power system. So even though I'm unfamiliar with that display, I mean, you don't need to be very familiar with all the numbers that are passing across it. I deal with the same stuff here as well. There's that otter back. Have you seen this place? Raspberry Rock? Yeah, this is where I live. Anyway, I actually talked to Ray a couple of days ago. I met up with him at his place in Bancroft. And I said, well, has the homeowner contacted you with any problems, any concerns, any questions? And he said, nope, I guess they're doing good. So, now mind you, this is like the best time of the year for solar power. We're in the middle to late June, you know, that he's had his system turned on. So this is the time of like ultimate sunshine. He might have more questions in the fall when, or winter time when, you know, his solar power might not be keeping up with the demands. In which case, well, anyway, I think he's getting his new house in August, built in August. So we're going to be heading back there. Actually, I don't know if I'm going back there, but I probably will be, to help them move the cabling and stuff and the inverter and charge controllers. All of that work that you saw was done in 2 days, except for the the forms, the concrete forms that were poured by the homeowner beforehand, and the work that Ray did on that piece of plywood with the 2 charge controllers and the inverter. He spent actually quite a bit of time, you know, not just mounting those on the board, but there was a bunch of wiring that he did beforehand that made it go a lot smoother. But that's it. Other than that, all that was done in 2 days, and we had plenty of time left on the second day. I think what did we do after that? We went and browsed one of his houses, I think. One of Ray's houses.
Like the trees that plant the other employees' quarters, I guess you can call it.
Oh, okay. That's a nice big area.
Yeah, pretty big. Well, the other was...
Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try and answer them. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Peace out. Almost fell.